At some point, you're going to realize that you're going to have to be alone and isolated at some point in your life in order to discover your path. I've been seeing a lot of people online and lately in person talk about, I feel lonely right now, or, I'm not doing much right now and I'm isolated. I feel isolated. And on surface level, that may seem like a negative thing. That may seem like this is, the last place people want to be. We're social creatures as human beings, and we need to be surrounded by, people we love, people that love us. And I get that, and I think that's true. But I do also think that there's a time in your life where you're going to have to be isolated if you're ever going to redirect yourself. If you need to hit a U-turn on the path that you're going right now, be alone, be quiet in the dark, and start to listen to what God is telling you, what the universe is telling you. A lot of times, it's great to be surrounded by friends, people we love. Not so great to be surrounded by people who are toxic, who don't bring much, who don't offer much as far as value into our lives. But those who have had time to be lonely, even if they are surrounded by family and friends, those who take the time to isolate themselves, I think they often find that they find the most clarity, they build the most strength, and through being and through that training time, through that season of isolation, they become clear. Now, what do I mean by, isolating yourself or being lonely or just having that time to yourself? I do believe that part of that requires you to be separate from people. It doesn't mean you have to be separate all day. Doesn't mean you have to be separate for, 3 months with no communication, because realistically, that's probably not realistic. But if you take time at certain points throughout the day, whether it's your morning, your afternoon, or evening, because that's all we really have as human beings, find out which part of the day you can take an hour to yourself, 2 hours if you're lucky, to get quiet, to not have your thought process polluted by other people's opinions, by other people's suggestions. And not that there's anything wrong with that. People's suggestions, people may have great suggestions. People may bring great insight to the path that you're supposed to be following in your life. But sometimes it may not sink. It may not pierce your psyche or pierce your belief if it's coming from an outside source. In sales, I've been in sales for most of my life. And one of the first things I remember being told is that sales is a transfer of enthusiasm, and that people don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy. And so one way as a salesperson, we would encourage them, take ownership in their purchase, is to just provide information. And once you provided enough information and we showed them the transformation, they were then able to feel great about deciding to buy and not being sold to, which can often lead to, I think it's called buyer's remorse, right? Feeling like, even though I wanted this product, I feel like the salesy salesperson sold me on this. So it doesn't feel as good as them being like, what, this makes logical sense. Let me go ahead and purchase this car or this home or these clothes or whatever the investment or whatever the purchase was. So I think you can run into a similar situation if family, friends, co-workers are telling you should do this, you should try this, you should try that. And they could all be correct. These can all be great suggestions. But if you start to pursue these things that they suggested, and once you run up against the inevitable roadblock, you may not have built a strong enough foundation internally to get over that hump, right? To persevere, right? To work your way, navigate through that hump, right? But if it's something you decided to do through prayer, through quiet time, through meditation, through your own research, when you bump up against these hurdles, right? One, you'll probably be more informed about these hurdles because you've done your research, and you'll know how to navigate these, and you'll know how to untie these knots because you've done your research and it's sitting well with you. There's a deeper understanding, a deeper belief that this is the path that you need to be on. Another thing about being alone too, another analogy I like to give is the concept of a seed. In a sense, we're all seeds ourselves. We were, first buried and cultivated in our mother's wombs in the dark, right? In order to get the nutrients and everything we need to grow into a baby. And then from there, I think that process continues, right? As we go through different chapters of our lives, different age brackets of our lives, we're being cultivated. There's good days, right? The sun, where it feels warm and it feels perfect and things are right. Then there's not so fun days where it feels rainy and it's cold, but both are needed in order to grow us as a human plant, so to speak, as a seed. In order for us to grow, we need the sun, and we need the sun, we need the brightness and the warmth of the sun, and we need the cold and the darkness of the soil, right, of being buried in order to get to this next level, in order to experience growth. So if you never have this alone time, this dark time, this time to just take in nutrition, the time to just be buried in the soil and build and grow from that, a lot of times we won't reach our fullest potential. And I also heard a woman say, I was watching some YouTube shorts the other day, and I kind of like her mentality. This may contrast everything you heard me say up until this point, but her point was this concept of having a path in life, or purpose in life, I think was the word, is bullshit. And this is what she said. And she articulated it way better than I'm going to right now, because I'm just paraphrasing. But she was saying, you were just meant just to be here. I think society, and I get it, it's noble. I get the magic in feeling like, yo, there's a purpose, there's a reason why I'm here. But I think with that mindset can also come unwarranted or unnecessary stress and anxiety, because you may not feel like you've reached a certain level in life. You may not feel like you've done all the things you were supposed to do in life, because your job is not providing that. And a lot of times we feel like our job is supposed to, the thing we do to make money is supposed to also be our purpose in life. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. It does happen. But I think more times than not, for various reasons, what people are passionate about is not what they do to make money. And if you can find the two, if you can connect the two, I think that's magical. But even then, people who have found their purpose, people who have found their, reason for being here, it doesn't always make them happy. I'm not saying it makes them sad, but I'm saying they don't walk around every day with this sense of like, this is it. I'm waking up, stretching, greeting the world every morning, feeling like this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. No, there's challenges, right? And in each level in life, there's going to be another level. There's going to be more time. You need to be, in solitude and get your thoughts and your minds together and navigate problems and challenges that you may or may not have seen as you, went on this path of being on purpose and stuff like that. She was saying that your purpose is to be here. You have family and friends and those in your life that just appreciate you being alive. And I thought that was a powerful way to view life, because you've seen more than enough times, people's lives being cut short or tragedy happen in people's lives, right? And maybe someone thought they were on their path and then something tragic happened. And now they're wondering like, well, why did that happen? What is the purpose of this happening? All right. So on one end, I love, I'm a creative. I love the idea of the magic and being on purpose and, finding your path, right? And waking up every day and pursuing that. I love that. But I also think there's, sometimes you need to have a split personality in life and be a bit more stoic about the reality of this experience we call life, where things happen, right? And are they bad? Are they good? Is it really good versus evil? Or is this just how things are? And if you can come to grips with that, maybe you squeeze more juice out of this thing we call life. Maybe you don't get so rocked by tragedy or setbacks or challenges, because you realize this is all part of the programming or this thing we call life at this point. So I say all that to say, don't be afraid to be alone. You're going to find clarity. You're going to not be polluted by outside voices. You're going to build a deeper foundation by listening to the voice inside. And by doing that, and also sometimes adopting the mindset of a stoic and understanding that challenges are okay, bad things are okay, setbacks are okay. They're all part of this page, the pages of our lives that tells our story. And as long as we are the authors of what things mean in our lives, right, then we can take control over our day. We can take control over our experience in life because we're okay with what comes next. As always, y'all, ABC, always be creating, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.